Okay, welcome back to American Rambler with your host Paul Grofton. Uh, we have a story here. Arizona House says schools must teach stories of people who fled communism. This is a very good idea. Okay, Republican lawmakers voted Friday to require that students be exposed to stories of people who fled communism as a part of a curriculum to prepare them to be civically responsible and knowledgeable adults. Very good. This language was inserted by Judy Burge into a 232-page bill of changes law governing K-12 education. It's nice to see people fight back against critical feminist theory. It says there must be a comparative discussion of political ideologies like communism and totalitarianism and how they conflict with the principles of freedom. Why do they keep using this word democracy? We are not in a democracy. It is a representative republic. A democracy is three wolves and two sheep deciding what is for dinner. Please try and look up Shays Rebellion, but if you don't, I think I'm going to give you a history lesson on Wednesday on Shays Rebellion. It also would mandate that the State Department of Education come up with new civic education standards, including the expectation that citizens will be responsible for preserving and defending the blessing of liberty. Well, whenever I hear the word defending, I always think of it as falling on men to do. In other words, be forced to do it as opposed to be volunteered to do it. I wouldn't mind doing it if it came with some benefits, but all it does is come with hatred and favoritism towards those that do not put their lives at risk. And it would require that the department create a list of oral histories that provide portraits in patriotism based on first-person accounts of victims of other nations' governing philosophies who can compare these philosophies with those of the United States. Okay, Jake Hoffman of Queen Creek said, the reality is one of the greatest threats facing the globe today is communism and totalitarianism, he said. We have governments like the Communist Chinese government that their stated goal is to be the world's sole and only superpower, and they will achieve that goal through any means possible. Wide-ranging provisions. The legislation contains a lot more. For example, there's a prohibition against teaching that someone's race, ethnic group, or sex determines their moral character or makes them responsible for actions committed by the same group. Yeah, one of the things that I totally find fascinating and enjoy about the MRA, black, white, Asian, Indian, it doesn't matter. If we need a hand up, we need a help, we're there for each other. And it doesn't matter what political party we're from. We don't care. Violations could lead to a $5,000 fine for the school district and the instructor losing a teaching certificate. Good. You do your activism on your own time, not on my tax dollar. Also, school boards would not be able to mandate the use of masks by students or staff on school campus. Lawmakers from both sides will also use this measure to debate whether the state is doing enough to pay for K-12 education, even though that funding is in a separate budget measure. But the discussion became most heated over the question of new mandated teaching civics, with an emphasis of teaching patriotism and that our form of government is better than any other. Yes, until We've seen what happens to Marxist government. The reality is that people, if you're all going to receive the same thing, then people are going to do the least amount of work that is necessary in order for them to get it. The threat of communism, and honestly, even here with our own borders, the threat of Marxism is on our front porch. He said there are people within the school systems who are socialists. His poster child for that is Noah Carvelis, a former Phoenix teacher he called an avowed socialist. Carvalho, who no longer lives in Arizona, was an organizer of the group Arizona Educators United that mobilized Arizona's historic 2018 teacher strike. He spoke at the Socialism Conference 2018 in Chicago about the strike and Arizona's Invest in Ed Act. But Carrell said at the time he was there to network with other teacher organizations. Okay, well, we have one from Idaho, we have one from Maine. Okay, you can see it. To teach our children about evils of communism and totalitarianism is right, Hopkins said. It's our duty and our responsibility to do that, definitely. That means having students hear real testimonies from people who escaped those types of governments and now live here and enjoy the blessings of his country, he said. Rep. Daniel Hernandez of Tucson countered, it's a bigger threat, white nationalism. No, not white nationalism. Believe me, I've seen blacks that are more patriotic. About 1/3 of the military are blacks. They actually enjoyed they enjoy the camaraderie. Hernandez placed the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol into the same category. So yes, let's talk about communism, he said. But let's talk about making sure we're not letting people get with the kind of things that happened. January 6th. I'll agree with one thing. We should not let the Capitol get away with what is happening in the Capitol. That provoked a response from Nguyen Valley, who was born in Vietnam in 1962 and emigrated to the United States after the Vietnam War. White nationalism didn't drown 250 Vietnamese in the Chinese Sea, he told the colleagues. The communists did. He said the execution of A6 Vietnamese at the fall of Saigon said it was communism that caused him to be in the United States. So don't take it lightly. Don't mock me. Don't mock what I go through in life, he said, saying he lost most of his family members due to communism. If we don't stand up to teach communism to our children, we lose this country. Yeah, if anyone who knows how the media and the political left does, it would be him. He actually experienced it. I hope they include his story in a video testimonial. While the bill passed on 3125 party line vote, the future of the provision on the civics teaching may not remain. That language is not in parallel bill that Senator Paul Glendale already has pushed through the Senate. The difference between the House will have to be worked out. There's another key difference. The Senate version contains language that would allow far more parents to use vouchers of public money to send their children to private and parochial schools. That's what they did in Florida. But efforts at the House version faltered after Republican reps Michelle Udall Mesa and Joel Janabar voted with the Democrats to keep that out of legislation. A couple of rhinos. Okay, tell me what you think. Do you think that the education money could have a voucher for private schools? And don't forget to check below for other for other sites that I sometimes put content on.